Were you with Baltimore when they pushed left field fence back?
Oh yeah. Okay,
okay. I want to ask you about that. So
that was my last year.
When I was
mounted.
I don't know if you guys heard.
What an idea.
So whenever we would come,
not pleased.
we would always wonder. It's so funny because we'd always wonder because when I was with the Rays, we'd always think, what does Trey think about this? The players would always ask, I wonder what Trey thinks about this.
Basically, up to that point, I had a lot of center and oppo homers.
Yeah.
You and Mountcastle missed on double-digit home runs.
But then, yes, going into 22, I worked on pulling the ball a little bit better, and it ended up costing me dearly.
You must have missed the email.
I was finally hitting some balls that, pulling some balls that would have been homers that were either, I think I hit it like a 430-foot double at one point. And then it was like the most George Costanza thing to ever happen to me. It was like,
Trey Bands, Notre Dame guy. Winter Haven to Notre Dame. How the hell? First of all, how'd you end up in Winter Haven? Winter Haven. Sarah, your wife, we're both from Fort Lauderdale, and we're like, Winter Haven. I used to go play Winter Haven tournaments because Cleveland, the Indians at the time, were down there for spring training. That's all I knew about Winter Haven was Cleveland spring training.
That's all most people knew about it growing up. Like, it was a very baseball-centered town because Cleveland was there.
Yeah.
But my parents met in D.C., and my dad's from about an hour south of Winter Haven, and then they just decided to go back to Florida because they want to live in warm weather, basically.
Yeah.
He had a job offer there, and then grew up in Polk County, baby.
How about Notre Dame? How'd you end up there? Showcase route, camps, all that kind of stuff?
No, actually, so my hitting coach from growing up was friends with one of the staff members for Notre Dame baseball, and he actually came down and watched me hit in a cage. They never saw me playing a game or anything like that. I was only getting recruited by FIU at the time. And yeah, he came watch me hit in a cage, and then they offered me a scholarship after that.
That's incredible.
So
you were banging in that cage, though.
It was a nice cage. Yeah, it was a nice cage. It was good. I was using the old orange Stealth.
Oh yeah, great acoustics too.
Provided some power. So it was a nice cage session.
I was a TPX guy. I was like a Gen 1X.
Gen 1X.
The white red one.
C555 was really
that
good.
That
I was a
weapon.
Nike torque guy back in the day.
Were you guys with the -5s, or did you get the -3s?
Threes.
There was -3. You had to use -3, but I had a couple -5s, dude.
Oh, yeah.
Got them on the black market
Sneak up
down
with
there
one
in
once in a
Miami.
while, yeah.
The -5 bats. Trey Bands, so okay, not only on the baseball side, everyone, your career, your journey, life, everything that life has thrown at you has been something that people have admired from afar.
Thanks.
Most doubtably so the baseball community. And I remember one specific instance, and we're just gonna go right into it, man, because at that point in time for me, I recognized how much you felt about cancer and your situation and your experience through it. And it was when Matt Williams, my former coach, got diagnosed with cancer, and we were both with the Cubs in Chicago. And as soon as you saw it on the TV, you made it a point to, I think you were going to the cage. You dropped everything and we're like, Haas, give me his number right now. I want to reach out. I felt that, you know what I mean? You made it a point that I need to do this right now. So, I know we're going to go all throughout your journey, man, but that is something. Sue was at the Home Run Derby when that was, your moment that the world, baseball, the world was like, yeah, Trey, let's go, dude. Yeah. So just take us on that ride, buddy. Where do we begin?
Yeah, but as far as Matt Williams goes, when I heard the news, it takes you back to when you were diagnosed and you found out that, you have maybe 50-50, maybe slightly better than 50-50 chance of living, disease-free from that point on.
Up until this point, you're healthy, man. Successful, couple years in the big leagues. We get to spring training, and then all of a sudden, stuff immediately changes.
Yeah, so it's, they tell you whenever you're diagnosed, it's 5 years is a big mark. But within that time, you're still getting checked all the time. It's always kind of in the back of your mind, and that never really leaves you, I'd say. And your priorities definitely change after you're diagnosed with cancer. And, some days are easier than others to get through, and you always try to keep a good perspective. But yeah, it's definitely something you have to learn to live with every day.
And man, to double down, 2020 of all years, COVID, obviously the world, just everything is such a crazy place. The world is a crazy place. But to shine some positivity on that, I mean, your and Sarah's story is unbelievable. And I mean, just take us through that support and how, Sarah was there off the field for you and just that whole, how you needed that support.
Yeah, so when I was diagnosed, it was a couple weeks before my 28th birthday, and Sarah flew down from DC to celebrate my birthday a couple weeks early. And she got there in the middle of my colonoscopy procedure, and she was there for me from the second I was diagnosed. It was right when she got into the center where they did the colonoscopy. They rushed her in and said, "Hey, we need you in here right now. Something's going on." I woke up, I see her there, and I could tell on her face there were some tears rolling down and something wasn't right. So we were in that moment together, and she never left my side throughout the whole thing. I'd go home from chemotherapy with a chemo in a port, and it would kind of drain through my chest. And I would keep that in for about 48 hours, and then she'd have to take it out every Wednesday. And she was my at-home nurse during it, because a visiting nurse couldn't come do it during COVID. So she had to learn on the fly how to do all that. So she was with me, on all those tough days. Yeah.
I mean, that's incredible.
Even talking about this now and having experienced everything you've experienced, both on the field, off the field, going through cancer, how's your perspective changed? In what ways has it changed now?
It's changed a lot. I think now I'm at the 5-year mark where you really are in reflection mode, I'd say, more so than anything. And the best way I can describe it is there's two different guys. There's the guy that's happy to be alive, has this great perspective on life, this, wake up and smell the roses perspective, I guess I would say. And then there's the guy that can be a little bitter at the timing of the diagnosis. I was coming off the best year of my career. I was 28, so it's in your prime. And, a different guy could show up on different days. And I'd always want the first one to win, but that's not reality. So I think sometimes it was tough to balance that and keep things in perspective.
How important was having Sarah with you through all of this too, though? Like when you are having those bad days, you can always lean back on your rock. She's always there for you.
Yeah, she's always there.
Yeah.
And there's, that's the thing that I'm confident about most in this world, is that she's going to be there, through thick and thin.
Yeah.
And we've been to hell and back already. So I feel like we got 60 years of in sickness and in health in those, those 6 months that we were going through all that.
You can talk about as much of this, and if you want to, and we can cut whatever you don't want to talk about, obviously. But in the lead up to the diagnosis, what was the difference that you were feeling? Was it physical? Was it just you just out of energy most days? What led to you saying something, and how did that process happen?
So the scary thing is I basically had no physical symptoms at all. So I had a certain mutation that made the tumor grow rapidly, and we think that made me not have any symptoms. So it just was progressing quickly. I was maybe slightly more tired than normal, but that was about it. Nothing out of the ordinary. I had no stomach pain. Nothing really was a red flag to me. And we found out about it just from the spring training physicals, the blood tests that we do. Right. The complete blood count, my hemoglobin and hematocrit were, obsolete. I had no iron in my system. So they kept asking me if I went on a vegan diet at first. And then we thought maybe I had a stomach ulcer, celiac disease. That's a common cause of low hemoglobin and hematocrit. But to be safe, luckily the Orioles trainer scheduled a colonoscopy for me to make sure. And that's when they found it. So I was really lucky to be playing baseball and get that blood test when I did.
Right.
So when you do get diagnosed, what is, baseball players, we're routine oriented. Like from 1 o'clock to 7 o'clock, we know what we're doing. Like when you do get diagnosed, what is the next goal? Like, is it, okay, we got 3 months of chemotherapy and then boom, we get to this goal. Like, what is the first goal?
Yeah, so the first goal, when I found out that I was going to have to do chemotherapy, at that point, the first treatment was a trial run. We knew that I had 12 treatments ahead of me. So I'd go in every other Monday for 6 months. And basically I'd go in, I'd get treatment for 3 or 4 hours, and then I'd feel like the next 3 or 4 days, I'd say. And then for about 9 or 10 days, I felt generally like myself. So there was at least a routine to it, and I had something to look forward to. But in those 3 or 4 days, I wouldn't really eat or drink basically anything. So I'd drop 10 to 12 pounds in those few days. And then the weekend would come, and then I'd have this massive, craving to have food, and then I'd just stuff my face for 2 days and like put the weight back on. So believe it or not, by the end of chemo, I weighed similar to when I started, but it was kind of redistributed. Like I was like, I need to get in the gym. I got some work to do if I'm gonna play this next year.
Right.
So the body definitely went through a lot in that time, but there was at least a routine to follow, and you get the swing of things.
And then did you feel that same love you were giving to Matt, reaching out? Did you feel that with the baseball community as far as guys reaching out?
100%. And that's a big reason why I always want to jump at any chance I can to talk to somebody that's going through it, because that's really what helped me the most going through it, was talking to former patients. And at the time, it was a lot of, I'd say, older people I met through Hopkins, and they were all amazing. And unfortunately, in the years that have passed, a lot more young people have been getting diagnosed too. So I especially make sure to reach out to them, just because it's good to talk to people your age that have been through it. I try to tell them what they're going to be feeling, what they're going to be going through during chemo. So I always try to pay it forward, because that helped me massively when I was going through all that.
One of the things, man, what I really, admired when we played together, you and I, similar situations, I think we both had gotten traded from teams, me that same year, you the next year, and then the team ends up going on to have success, and you felt like, damn, I had a big part of turning this culture around. So it's tough, to watch. So when we were in Chicago, it was awesome in that spring training, man. Me, you, and Bellinger. That's why. So Trey Bands, no idea why we call you that. One day,
I think Belly just made it up.
he just walked in the cage, and Belly's like, Trey Bands. We're like, what do you got? Belly's like, I don't know.
That's
Trey
what he
Bands.
is.
So Trey Bands is the name now. But man, we would always, be kind of, that was our clique. We were talking. We were just always. It was a fun spring training, man. It really was. And one of the things, as we broke spring training and we got to the regular season, man, what I really, really took aware and notice of is, man, you were hard on yourself, man.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, man, I'm putting stuff into perspective, and I'm like, man, you overcame cancer. You everything you've been through, to still be that intense about baseball and all that. Like, that's something I'm like, man, you are a competitor, dude. Like that, to me, I was just like, this is unbelievable, man. So we're back at it now, trying to roll, man.
And that's something that never leaves you. I've been competitive from the time I was born. Just anything, I just always want to win in whatever I'm doing, and I have a hard time losing. But I think part of it too is that what I was talking about earlier was the two different guys, and I think looking back, and a big reason why I wanted to come back and play this year was I do think there were some times where I wasn't kind enough to myself, especially in that first year back in 2021. With everything that I had gone through the year before, that year I expected to just completely be the same guy that was there in 2019, and that wasn't a realistic outlook on what a successful year should have been that year. And I just did a lot of reflecting on the past few years too, and wanted to go back and have the mentality of nothing to lose and everything to gain, basically, and leave it out on the field. No matter how long I keep playing or short, I just want to go out and truly enjoy it. And you gain appreciation for where you've been, what you get to do whenever you're not doing it anymore. So, like 6 months ago, my main goal in life was to become the club tennis champion at the country club up the road from my house. You know what? I feel like I could still hit a baseball if I go out and try. So let me go do it and put this on hold for a little bit.
It's interesting hearing you say that.
That's amazing.
Talking to a lot of different athletes who are really good at their sport, a lot of them are hard on themselves. Like, you hear the way they talk to themselves, and you think like, wow, like they want greatness. They have this very fine line of almost like perfectionism. You just want to do everything you can at the highest level. But what I hear you saying is you're learning to toggle between those two selves that you're saying. How have you learned to do that? How do you get to the point to where you can be hard on yourself so it's effective, but not to the point to where it burns you and hurts you. Where's that line for you?
It worked my whole life until I had cancer, I would say, because it was just baseball was it for me. That was the most important thing in my life, and I could will myself to just break out of a slump and things like that. And I think afterwards I had a harder time reacting to that just because of everything I gone through. And I knew deep down that I did have a new perspective. And yeah, I think I just kind of became a different guy and didn't respond to, I guess, the self-punishment, of getting out of a slump. And, as time goes on, you learn how to succeed and be kinder to yourself and know how hard this game is.
Can you be kind to yourself and competitive at the same time? What does that even sound like?
It's possible, but it's tough.
What does that sound like?
But I mean, that's
I never was able to do that. I was always hard on myself, and because it made me a competitor. And to hear like all the guys we've brought in here, it's like you hear that other side. I never was able to do that. I was always as hard on myself as I could be, and for whatever reason, I have no idea. But to have that ability to, also be kind, it was like it's incredible.
Yeah, and some guys do an amazing job of it. They're just even keel, like same dude. You wouldn't know if they were 10 for their last 10 or 0 for their last 30.
Yeah, I always felt when I was playing, I was like, you know what? I know I can do better, and I expect the best out of myself. And to go 0 for 4, 0 for 7, 0 for 20, which happened actually, it's unacceptable.
More than often.
It happened a couple times actually, but like
more than
I was
often.
like, wow, like I expect greatness out of myself, and me not being able to perform always like kind of drove me even more.
So what I'm so curious about, dude, and I have no idea how would you go about juggling first couple days back, road to recovery? My goal is to feel good today, man. I want to go through practice and feel good.
How did you do that? That's what I would be like, ask Trey.
Yeah.
So fix it, please. Fix it.
Good assist.
It definitely, like, if we're talking about 2021, like my first few games back, it definitely took a little bit of time. Like, it was a rough first few weeks, and then I finally hit a point where I was like, it hasn't started great, but I know I can still succeed and get through this. And I just was able to rewire my mind a little bit and calm down. And ended up having a pretty good year that year, even though at the time I think I didn't enjoy it enough, like I had said earlier. But, looking back now, I'm proud of how that year went.
Oh, man. So I always tell these guys, I was like, when the whole thing with me in San Diego happened, it was like, it took mentally, this game, mentally, once you kind of get punched in the face mentally, it's very hard to come back.
Very tough.
And you almost like, you need to have success on the field to really feel that, right? So I never really had that after the years that I left San Diego. So it's like, it's that doubt. But that moment, that home run derby moment, I mean,
my God.
Golly, man, that had to feel like, okay, man, like this feels great, dude.
Yeah, that was a fun, special night. Definitely one of my best baseball memories in my life. It's something I grew up watching every year and getting to compete in that. I met Justin there at the home run derby that year, and it was just such a special day having Sarah, my whole family, a ton of my friends who had all traveled into Baltimore actually during my surgery. So that same group that was in my recovery room was at the home run derby the next year, which was a really cool full circle moment too. So I think it was just getting to share in that with everybody, not just the on the field performance and that experience. I think it was all my loved ones getting to be there and kind of celebrate and be part of it too.
Enjoying it together. Yeah.
How was the reception from all of your peers, from your peers from the league, players from the different teams at that game?
Oh, it was great. Yeah. Like everybody that whole year, I was definitely taken aback and humbled by all the, love and support I got from everybody, because playing baseball definitely is a fraternity, and you find out in those moments how much of it is a fraternity.
It was cool because when you walked into the clubhouse, it was neat, because I didn't know that's where we met, but it was neat to see how all of the other players responded when you walked in and when you were warming up, and just all the players are just talking obviously positive behind your back, like, wow, look at that guy, look at Trey, look at Trey.
Yeah.
Everyone was just gassed up for you and cheering you
Thanks,
on.
man.
It's really cool to hear what people say to you when you're not around, and when you're not around, the way people talk about you, players and former teammates, it's amazing. You almost wish they could write it and give it to you, because you have no idea. You have no idea how many people you inspired and continue to do so.
League-wide, country-wide, worldwide, everybody was watching, man. It was unbelievable.
Yeah, I watched the home run derby, and I've never cheered for anybody before. That entire time, I was like, let's go. Come on. Like, I was like in the box with you. I'm like, come on, we got this. And I was like, it was just awesome to watch you do that. And like, again, I got to do the home run derby, and I knew what it was like to be in that. Like, everyone's watching you hit, and I was just in the box with you. I was like, we're gonna win this thing, dude. Let's get it.
Thanks, man. It was fun.
It's incredible.
It was an adrenaline rush unlike anything I experienced, and I joke beforehand. I was just like, I want to do well enough to not be seen as a charity case ass to this thing this year. So I was like, even getting to the second round, I think, would squash that. So getting to the final, I was like, okay, good. Like,
but you were hitting tanks.
The
hitch was loading up. The earliest September.
I was ready.
Right in there.
And I had my college coach throwing to me. We got synced up there pretty good. So I was really happy he got to experience that too.
Trey, man, so now, okay, I'm not gonna lie, dude. I do some dry hacks sometimes, and I'm like, it feels pretty fucking good.
Come on.
I mean, but taking the year off, getting healthy. I mean, that is when you've had some years in the big leagues, some years playing every single day, that takes a toll on your body, not only physically but mentally. I mean, being able, because when you're in the fight, man, I talk about it with Sua all the time. It's like athletes, our generation, we got thrown this difficult task of like these young guys are doing all this new fancy drill work. They're looking at the mechanics in a different way. And then we at some point kind of go through that rough patch in baseball that we all know we're going to. And then we start being like, damn, do I need to start buying into this new shit? Like, this guy's coming to the cage with 3 duffel bags. I'm just showing up with a bat.
Yeah.
I got a bat.
Yeah, like, do I need to start buying into this?
These guys can do some damage on some high velocity stuff. It's impressive.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
But when you're just in the fight and it's just nonstop, to me, it just keeps going on and on and on. And that struggle just, honestly, like, you never get that feeling you really want. You're like searching for. Taking that full year off mentally, I mean, what's the perspective now coming into camp, and like having a clear head now has got to feel great.
Yeah, it feels great. So into spring training last year with the Marlins, didn't make the team, and then I thought something else would come up and it didn't. And I hit for about a month or two after that, nothing came up, and then I shut it down, and quite frankly, thought I was going to retire at that point and most of the summer, I'd say. And then in about late July, Brady Anderson texted me. I worked with him a lot when I was in Baltimore. He changed my swing when I was in the minors and was a huge reason why I made the majors and had some success up there. And he basically told me he thinks I should give it one more shot. And because I had told him I felt pretty at peace with being done and was ready to move on. And he said, give it one more shot. The time for peace can be later, but I still think you can do it. And that's all I really needed to hear. And I flew out to California, hit with them, and it was kind of like being back in 2015 again, and felt really good. And, thought I'd give it a go, see if somebody throws me a spring invite. And luckily the Diamondbacks did. So here I am. But, definitely took some time and reflection, and I think an old coach and mentor reaching out and, saying that, it definitely was the kick in the ass I needed, I think, because I definitely at that point was thinking about going into public speaking or something else, and when I had the speech written, something didn't feel complete about it to me too, and I thought, let's give it one more shot.
What's awesome about that too is on the opposite end of that is you have earned this reputation throughout the league of being a winning player, and you guys know, being in the industry, in the game, playing for a guy like Buck Showalter, guys know winning baseball. So that, for the Diamondbacks to reach out and invite you after taking a year off is because of the reputation that you've built yourself as a player. But you guys know as well, you have to, when you come from a winning organization and people know what winning baseball looks like, that goes a long way in baseball.
That's so true. It's what's that phrase? Winners win, and a lot of times it's losing is contagious. But obviously, when you win, being part of clubhouses and being a veteran, been there, done that. That's so true. That's so true.
Yeah, like I felt that in Houston when I went there. It was just from the second I was there, I was like, this team just knows how to win. Like they have a winning culture, and then you buy in right away, and you're in.
How about with Baltimore, man? Like knowing that young group. I remember you talking about all the pitching they had, and then like some of the gunners before he became that dude or whatever. But what was it in that group that you knew like this team is about to take off?
I knew in 22 when we had a rough April that year, and then from then on, we played really well, and it was so fun to be a part of and see because there were some rough years mixed in. I got called up in 2016, and 2 weeks later was in the wild card game against the Blue Jays. So that was my experience at that point, and I thought it was going to be like that every year. And then, you go through about 5 years of not winning baseball, and it was definitely tough, but it hardens you up. It makes you grow a lot. And in 22, finally, some of those young guys and some of those draft picks, came up, and they hit those picks a lot. And I think Adley coming was a big turning point for the organization, especially with the position he plays. Something that struck me about him was he was called up in May. It was his debut day. Normally everybody is very nervous and, kind of doesn't know what to do with themselves on the day of their debut. They're in their own world. Adley's main concern was talking to the pitcher that night and like game planning for the game. He's like, I'll hit in the cage when I need to, but he was ready to go and get on the same page with the staff. So I saw that. I was like, all right, this dude's the real deal. And that was a huge turning point, I think, for the team.
And the AL East, too. That's a real deal division.
Yeah, it is. And that's actually I wanted to talk about. We were just talking about winning organizations. A conversation I love to have with people is what it's like to be on a team that is losing a lot. I always say winning is like oxygen. And the more you win, you have this oxygen, it deodorizes a lot of problems. But when you lose at a high clip, even the small things could just splinter an entire clubhouse in the locker room. So I was with the Cleveland Browns for the year. We went 1-15, and then we're like, oh, you can't get worse than that. Oh, it got worse. We went 0-16 the next year. And so what people don't understand is like the players showing up every single day when the L's keep adding up. What did you learn from those seasons when you had 100+ losing, 100+ losses? How do you stay confident? How do you keep showing up there in no time? What advice do you have for someone?
It's tough, but you still have a job to do. And in that situation, you want to play spoiler toward the end of the year. And your games are important, A, for going into the next year for your team. B, they have playoff implications most likely for some of these teams you're going to play. So you want to put your best foot forward. And I remember in 21, we ended up having a 19-game losing streak at one point, and I think about 8 games in, I decided to grow a mustache, and I refused to shave it until we won a game, and I ended up having it for like 2 weeks. It was disgusting looking. Like, I remember Sarah strongly disliked it, but I was like, we got to do something to like lighten the mood around here too. You have to do those little things, and that mustache got pretty nasty there.
How was that though? Because keeping it loose, and then like Buck Showalter was the guy. It was business, man.
It was business.
Then you go to Hyde after, which obviously that he changes the culture a little bit, more of a player's manager, just different style than Buck, I would say.
Yeah, I'd say 2019 when Hyder got there. Looking back, it was actually a pretty fun year. We knew going into the year with, the personnel that we had traded away our entire team basically in 2018. So going into 19, we were, behind the 8 ball most games at the start. I'm sure we probably weren't favored in too many games, but the group that year was really tight knit. We had some fun personalities on that team and had a lot of fun with it. And we won 54 games, but I'd almost say that was it was an improvement from 2018.
It was a great time.
We won 47 in 2018, but we especially toward the end of the year we played pretty well, and we had fun with it that year. And it was the first year of the new regime. We knew it was going to take time. Obviously in baseball, the rebuilds take some time, but we knew it was important to set the table for the years to come. So I look back on that year fondly, regardless of the record.
What about with Buck though, man? Because going back to that Bobby D, that viral clip of you guys on the internet, and keep your face in there. I already know because I was with him in San Diego, and as an infield instructor, I mean, he's the best in the game. I've never seen someone make that much of an impact on just infield. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The attention to detail that he has with with infield, with defense work, like it's unbelievable. Buck Showalter, he's a product of Buck, obviously coaching system. What is that like to play for Buck, man?
I love playing for Buck. Buck is, I'd say, one of the last true old school guys around, and you definitely have to earn your stripes with him, earn his trust, and if you do that, then he trusts you and will put you in any situation. You just have to prove it to him. But I love getting to play for him. I mean, he's a legend. He's been, he managed for such a long time, managed so many incredible players. And
speaking of legends, Wayne Kirby was over there too, first base.
The staff was elite across the board over there.
It was.
So especially those first couple years, it was really fun to be
Oh
around.
man, I remember those years, especially in your first year was 16, I believe. But those years when Scopey was at second, those double plays they were turning.
Pop, pop, pop.
It was unbelievable. I've never seen a double play turn so fast, and that was the one thing I remember about Baltimore, that infield.
Absolutely. That was electric.
Yeah, it was amazing. And like you said, Bobby D had us all ready. I mean, we were practicing game speed from day one. That video that you're referring to, I think, was at the end of the year that we won 47 games, and he's still out there with us early doing all our drills and acting like we're in a playoff hunt. So that says a lot about him and who he is too. But he's incredible infield coach.
Oh man, Bobby D. He's an incredible baseball coach, man. That guy, his knowledge on the game was next level, man. I was ultra impressed. And then Kirby too. Just ask him.
What was it about Buck specifically? We've been talking a bunch so far about the environment that coaches can bring and the energy that people can bring and how they change a clubhouse, or they can change a clubhouse for the worse, obviously, as well. What was it about Buck specifically that you got from him?
So Buck, I remember even the first time I got called up to a spring game in 2014, I was one of the minor league backup guys. I was just sitting there watching the game. Buck came up out of nowhere and quizzed me on the situation. He asked me a trivia question based on the situation. I think I got it wrong, and then I went up and swung at a 3-0 pitch and grounded into a double play the next inning. So it wasn't the best first impression, I think. But it was a learning experience because I knew I was like, next time I need to be watching this game and I need to be ready to answer the question that he's going to ask me. So from then on, I think I was just really engaged. Not that I wasn't before, but I always was looking at what's going on in this game. Where does this guy need to be? Where would I need to be if I was at first base? And he helps you learn the game and think things through and plan before they happen.
Right.
And not get caught with your pants down out there when you're in the field. So he made sure you were prepared when you were going up, and the organization at the time definitely made you master every level of the minors before they'd promote you to the next one. So it was definitely a slog to get up there, but by the time you get called up, you're pretty damn ready to go. And the way that Buck was, like, that was instilled throughout the whole organization. All the coaches were like that, and I felt ready to go whenever I debuted because of that.
There were so many little things that I remember Manny brought to San Diego, like, for instance, that in between ground ball, the second baseman kind of comes up, and as a base runner, you can take him out halfway to the line, same way as if he's straddling second base.
That was Buck's favorite play in the world.
Dude, I mean, little things like that to where it's like,
just taking him out.
Yeah, I did it, but I was like, if I'm going to take out, this, established guy at second, like if you were playing second, I was like, I don't think I'm going to slide into Moustakis here on this play. I'm a rookie. I'm like, as happy as it would make the coaching staff, I'm like, I don't know if I can do this.
You just reading the rule book and you're like, ooh, I got to play, guys.
I heard Buck on TV talk about the fact that when players are in a rundown, he'd always tell his players to get down on the ground, because if you're going to tag someone, majority of the time you're going to pull the glove away from the ball and they're going to tag you with the glove, especially in a double play situation. Buck said that. I'd never even thought about stuff like that before, but just the mentality and the trying to gain an advantage that could maybe be 1 out, 1 run, whatever it ends up being, but that's the advantage you need to be able to win in 162 games.
Yeah, dude. And you
The
felt that
small
playing
little things.
Baltimore. You had to play a perfect game. You could not, they weren't going to make mistakes. They were not going to give you a free 90 feet, a free out. Like, you just knew that.
And Buck was going to put his guys in a position to succeed, too. That's what was awesome about watching him manage just on the other side. It was like, these guys are in the right position, giving them a chance to succeed.
Yeah, that I remember the 2014 was it when you guys played them in the CS?
Yeah.
You guys swept them, I know, but they were all
That's
like
right,
close.
baby.
They were swept, there were some good games.
were
Though.
great
Like
games.
for a sweep, it was a good.
They were all like
good
tied in like the
series.
6th, 7th inning, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
They were all super close games, man.
That was an awesome series.
Were you with Baltimore when they pushed left field fence back?
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Okay,
That was,
okay, I want to ask you about that. So
That was my last year.
When I
You
was
were
with,
mounted-
so,
oh, dude.
I don't know if you guys heard.
What an
when I was
idea.
yeah,
I
so
was
whenever
not
we would
pleased. I was
come,
not pleased.
we would always wonder. It's so funny because we'd always wonder because when I was with the Rays, we'd always think, what does Trey think about this? The players would always ask, I wonder what Trey thinks about this. Talk about how did that affect you? when you
Yes,
heard
we
about
really
that?
want to know. Come on,
So
baby.
basically, like
What a terrible
my
idea.
whole
Hitting's easy, so let's just make the fences go further back.
100 feet.
basically up to that point at Camden Yards, almost all of my home runs were from where like the cutoff was over like towards right. I had a lot of
Right.
center and oppo homers.
Yeah.
You and Mountcastle
So-
missed on double-digit home runs.
But then yes, going into 22, I worked on pulling the ball a little bit better, and it ended up costing me dearly. You must have missed the email. I was finally hitting some balls that pulling some balls that would have been homers that were either, I think I hit it like a 430-foot double at one point. And then, they were getting
I love
caught
that
at
it
the
wasn't a
wall, but I
triple.
was like, this is like the most George Costanza thing to ever happen to me. It's like, this year, the year I finally could pull the ball better, the wall is, moved back, to the next county,
It
basically.
really is.
So,
It's so far.
He's 100 feet tall. What are we doing? What are we doing?
Yeah.
How about now, man? Like some of the stuff as an older player, you like to talk about different managers and all that. And Torey Lovello's a guy. I mean, you admire what he does from afar. So getting to experience spring with him has got to be pretty cool.
he's the man. I've loved getting to meet him and be part of the organization so far. It's been a great spring. Like, these guys work. Not that the other clubs I was with didn't, but the attention to detail in every rep. And I was talking about practicing at game speed earlier. The grounders are hit with some nice velocity. So it's get down there, get ready, get your nose in it. And I love it though, because come season time, you're going to be ready to go. And it's been great.
On a lighter note, dude, being old and bitter and just bitching about everything, no better person to do that with Trey, dude. Me and Trey would just be out there and be like, slow it down on that ground ball speed, bro. That's what we're doing. It's 7:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
Cool it down.
The formerly retired me though now appreciates it. So I'm loving every second.
That
of
was
it.
so good, man. Oh, man. Belly, too. That was a fun group we had in Chicago.
It was. I know that because everybody asked me about my time there, and that team was so much fun, and some of my best friends from baseball.
Yeah, great
were on
city,
that team.
too.
Such a good city.
And-
Wrigley's so awesome. It was a really cool place to play.
How about, too, everybody can speak on this, as a player, being able, VJ, the traveling secretary there, just like TJ in San Diego, in my opinion.
He's better at his job than anybody is at anything.
Unbelievable, man.
The
I
best.
mean, the clubhouse, you're staying at all the best hotel, the way Chicago does it, I mean, first class, state of the art,
Yeah.
all the way. Huh? And that's a big deal for everybody in baseball. Huge deal.
Yeah, they did a great job. Attention to detail on all all those things was incredible.
What about the minor leagues? Are there any, your time in the minor leagues, anything, big lessons, anything notable in particular that you remember your time is in it coming up?
I feel lucky enough to have gotten drafted with a group that was really close. It felt as close to a college team as possible, I would say, when I got drafted. And I think that really helped with development coming up through the minors. Was that group really wanted to win and cared a lot. And I think that really helped once I got called up to the majors and everything, because I had heard before I was drafted that it's, every man for himself, yada, yada, yada. And that wasn't my experience at all. And I look back so fondly at a lot of my time in the minor leagues. there's definitely some grindery places you stay and play at, and there's some good stories, but yeah, I definitely, look back fondly on
awesome.
My whole journey through.
Tell us about your major league debut. Like, what was that?
So major league debut, my season had ended in AAA a couple weeks prior, and they sent me to the mini camp in Sarasota.
Right.
So I was staying ready down there, wasn't sure what was going to happen. And then Steve Pierce, unfortunately, got injured, and then they called me up to replace him, basically to DH against left-handers, for the rest of the year. And then I got to Baltimore September 18th, ended up debuting 2 days later on the 20th. And, it was like all day. I was just, I almost passed out like every step I took. I didn't know what way it was up. I was like, oh my God, this is crazy. Second the game started, it was, it all washed away, super calm, had some adrenaline going, and
What'd you do first at bat?
First at bat flew out to right, second at bat I hit a home run. So getting the monkey off the back, the second at bat was pretty nice. And
Who was it off?
Erod, Eduardo Rodriguez, who's on the Diamondbacks now. So nice. I've faced him. I've probably faced Erod like 40 times.
Really?
Yeah. So I faced him more than anybody else in the majors.
Would it have been a homer with the new fence?
It was in the bullpen, so it was yeah. I hit it pretty well, and he threw 2 changeups, and then I was like, he's coming heater in here, and I cheated to it, and.
What is like a hitter's meeting right now? What is the baseball language? Like, I'm 2 years removed, and I feel like
we haven't really had one yet. Today was the first day of spring training, and I saw the hitting report in the cage, and I really liked it. It was succinct, I would say,
right.
And there's obviously now there's a ton of guys who want different information. There's maybe like the newer school guys who want to know every detail. They want to look at every graph and like what every pitch is doing. Some guys want to know how hard is his fastball and what's his best off speed, and that's all they want to know. So it offers that and everything in between.
How about like cage work and training and stuff? Is it machines right now? Is it, I mean, you guys haven't built up to all that stuff yet.
It's definitely dealer's choice, whatever you want to do. There's, I think they want you to be comfortable with your routine, what you do, and whatever puts you in the best position to succeed, they're going to support.
Did you hit at Cressey?
I did last year.
Okay.
So like last off season I went there to work out, but we moved to Tennessee. So
that's right.
In Nashville now. So yeah, worked out of Vanderbilt this
we've had
offseason.
Cressey,
Nashville, sweet, man.
So that's great. Because we've had Cressey on, man. He's awesome.
Oh yeah, he's great.
I was going to ask you what it is kind of like working out there. I know it's a one-stop shop.
It was
and then
great.
Nashville at the same time is a great group out there, but Cressey first.
Yeah, Cressey was great. They obviously, I worked out there and hit there. There's so many guys that work out. It's so organized. I started hitting lives in like December there, which I had never done before, but it was great. And it was cool to meet so many different guys that you play against for years and you've never really met them before. It was great, kind of a melting pot of players. And yeah, I loved my time there. And then moved back up to Nashville. I'd been there from 2016 to 21, and we decided to go move back there, especially when we thought I was done playing. We wanted to, have like a permanent home and, really put our feet down there.
Right.
But I had worked out at Vandy every year that I lived in Nashville. So getting to do that again and working out with all my friends up there, it's some of my best friends. The reason I moved to Nashville originally was I got drafted with Mike Yastrzemski, and he convinced me one off season to just move there with he and his wife. And I was like, okay, yeah, like I don't necessarily want to go back to Winter Haven this off season, so I'll go up to Nashville, and loved it. And yeah, I've been there basically ever since.
Booster's thinking about heading out to Nashville.
It's on the radar.
It's a possibility right now.
It's on the radar?
It's on the radar.
Yeah, come on, man. Yeah. It's great.
I've heard about Nashville, not only Vanderbilt, but being a huge off-season spot for a lot of guys and a lot of big time, like Vinny P and Rooker, guys that are on here.
Sonny's up there.
Big time,
Casale, all the old Vanderbilt guys.
So I worked out with Kurt a ton. I'm really good friends with Kurt. We were in spring training with the Marlins together last year, and we were friends before, but now we're super close after that. So Yeah,
the
fun
best
being
team.
with him and Yaz, and Adam Frazier is one of my best friends. I hit with him every day. I'm there too. So it's
Back
a
in
great
Pittsburgh.
group.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Frazier back in Pittsburgh.
Frazier back in Pittsburgh. Yeah.
It's so much better, like like the minor leagues, like you said, being able to take all that stuff on with a group, like having a group in the off season to work out with, to hit with. Minor leagues, like it just makes life so much better.
It
right?
does.
Oh man,
It really does.
That's
Yeah.
how it was with us in Kansas City.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's like the goal, right? That is what you feel like. Not only, you know, are you fortunate to be a professional, a big league player, but then if you get to be able to come up with the same group of guys to kind of experience highs and lows, that just adds to it.
Most definitely. Yeah, and because you guys came up together, right?
Yep.
So, yeah, to go through all that and then win the World Series is like dream come true.
Pretty good.
Oh man.
yeah.
How about now, Trey, man? Just to close on all this stuff, but like new trend now is the mental side of baseball. So where now going into Arizona, what is the goal mentally for you? Is it just now, hey, this is where we're at, we're stacking up small wins, we're keeping it simple?
Yeah, for sure. And I understand the position I'm in. I didn't play last year. My last major league game was in July of 2023. I'm going to have to earn it to get back to the majors. And obviously my goal is to make the team out of spring. But if not, then, you know, I'm open to going to Reno and getting at bats, getting you know, back into the swing of things. And you know, I'll be able to do that in the spring games, hopefully. But yeah, I'm willing to go there too and kind of earn it back too. So
Yeah, fast forward, man, to October, Arizona's probably going to be a team that's
it's
right
a
up in there.
It's a great
so
club.
Oh yeah.
we can blink and be in October in a really good spot, man. I'm fired up for you.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, man.
Yeah,
One last question. Do you feel within yourself that you can still do it? Because there was a moment in my career where I was out of it from 14, 15, basically 2 years out of the game. And then I was in AAA with these guys. And I knew that I still had enough to get back to the big league level. I just needed that one opportunity. Do you still feel like you can do it?
I do, and that's why I'm here right now. I knew just if it was in the right situation or right opportunity that it could definitely happen, and I could still be a great hitter and impact player at this level. So I think there will be a day that might not be the case, but it's not now. I definitely think I can still do it, and that's what inspired me to come back.
Oh, yeah.
How about Pete? It's a little different being a pitcher, but as a position player, like, is there live at bats going a year plus without seeing live at bats, man? Is there like a realistic, hey, I need to give myself 15 at bats, 5 games, whatever it is, and then like now I'm back up to game speed, and now we can start evaluating.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm trying to get as many as I can in. The first few went really well. I was like, wow, you know, like it's been 11 months. It felt great. Went in there today, and it was a grind. So it's like, you know,
What a game.
I went in, I was like, okay, like that's, yeah, like these guys are really good still. And yeah, I got humbled a little bit. So it's going to happen, and you have to make adjustments and, you know, kind of reflect on the at-bat, see what went wrong, and then make the adjustment for the next one. But yeah, I got in there off Kevin Kinkle today, and he ate my lunch.
He's
And,
nasty,
oh
though.
yeah.
Nasty
So,
reliever.
nasty reliever, and yeah, so it, you know, can vary day to day. But I think normally after about 30 at-bats, you at least start feeling like you have a consistent approach and your body's doing what you want it to. But it's a different number for everybody.
How do you like mentally, how would you even in your profession try to explain, I go in the cage one day and everything is just clicking, and I go there the next day and I feel like I'm standing on my head?
Here's what I'm just sitting here. This is the first time I've actually really listened to you talk this long. I'm making a little small observation about you as you're talking. One thing you're really good at, that you're really good at reframing things. You've done this twice. So one of a key exercise we do with a lot of players who have a hard time reframing is we teach them the power of but. The power of but. So it's like, okay, complain if you want to complain. But once you're done complaining, throw the word but in there and then finish the sentence. And so it's like, oh, I'm 0 for my last 20. Okay, but what? Oh, but you know what? We still got a lot of season left. Okay, I'm going to go on there and work on it. Okay, you know what? My goal is to break camp with a major league team. But what if you don't? I was listening very close to what you said. You
Right.
said,
I was
"But I'm
trying to
gonna-"
articulate it the best I
You did
could,
good.
you know, because that's the goal.
Yes.
But in reality, I might have to go to AAA and really earn my way back up there too.
And that's what destroys a lot of guys mentally, is they have these expectations, like, this is what's gonna happen, I'm gonna do this, and then where reality hits or like life hits and it doesn't meet that, and all of a sudden they just mentally and emotionally can't deal with it, as opposed to being someone like Trey and saying, this is what I want, and if this happens, I'm gonna respond this way, if this happens, I'm gonna respond this way, if this happens, I'm gonna respond this way. That's just maturity. That's what mental flexibility looks like, in my opinion.
So rather than having a singular goal, almost have levels to it so that you can have wins at every point up. And even if you don't get to where you want to be, you can still see it in sight, but you've got to win on the way up.
So it's kind of like you can still have a singular, like, yes, this is what I want. I'm obsessed with achieving this thing. And if this, and this happens, I'm mentally prepared for that too. Like, and so Michael Phelps, some of my favorite stories, his coach would turn the lights off while he was swimming, or he would have him swim without goggles on, or he would have him swim and then try to distract him. Tiger Woods' dad did the same thing, because they said, if this happens in real competition, you're gonna have no excuses. You're prepared for everything. How you respond. Like, what's that quote? Is 90%, 10% of life was happening to you, 90% is how you choose to respond. And I think you're the epitome of that. This entire you've put on the clinic, and not only just what you say, but just how you've lived your life and responded to everything you're responding to.
Hey, yeah, much appreciated, Justin. Thank you.
We're all rooting for you, man, big time.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Can't wait to see it, dude.
Thanks,
awesome.
guys.
Wait, hold on. I have a question. I'm sorry. I'm trying to take this all in. Hold on. When you meant by that, break that down for me again, because I had kind of an evaluation.
Something I've tried to get better at too is like adding that, because sometimes I'll catch myself saying something maybe that could be perceived as negative, but then you want to, like, it's kind of my way of catching myself. And I guess, like Sarah always says, speaking into the universe, you know?
So, okay, this might be a dumb question. I'm sorry if it is. Was that what you were trying to say with Trey? Is like, yes, but like, just say, yeah, like, this is my goal. Because what I'm saying is the reason, and I think am a huge victim of this, is my opinion would be Trey believes that. Like, he believes his goal is to make the team at a spring. What Trey is hyper aware and sensitive of is he knows myself, he knows my Moose, he knows Pete, he knows you. We all are in the game. So he's saying, I'm telling a bunch of guys, I've been out of the game for a year and a half. They're going to think I'm fucking crazy if I'm making the team out of spring. So I feel like you're trying to juggle all this stuff instead of just being confident and saying, I'm going to make the team. Am I way off here, or do you understand what I'm trying to say?
No, I feel like necessarily. I
get what you're saying.
I know what you're saying, but no, it wasn't really about that. You know, I wouldn't be afraid to tell. I wouldn't be afraid to tell you guys that.
Yeah.
But I just know the reality of the situation I'm in, and like I said, it's a great ball club. You know. So.
Yeah, and it's not so much afraid. It's
I think he's confident in what he's capable of doing, but he's prepared for what could happen if he needs to go to AAA, if that makes sense. Like, his mindset is already, okay, I know I'm good enough to do this still, but I might need some other at-bats to get ready to get back to the big leagues.
Yeah, and you know, I'm not even sure if it's the need for more at-bats, but I just, you know, there's a good chance that I'll start the year there, and I know that. So if that's the case, then so be it, and hopefully I'll be there soon enough.
Yeah.
Is there a small window to prove yourself too? So that, you know, allowing yourself the crutch of knowing that you could go to AAA and still continue this dream. I think that's an important part as well.
Mm-hmm. And again, I'm so curious, because it's like, you do go to AAA, hit a homer in the first at bat, and it's like, dude, I feel all the way ready. I'm all the way back.
Call me back.
Right. But it's like, you know what? At the same time, I have to understand and be realistic, man. Like, baseball is a game where I'm going to feel great, and then I'm going to feel like shit.
Yeah.
So let's get through that part, and then we're like 1-1. It's go time.
And then I think, especially nowadays too, there's so many great players not signed still, and there's one or two less levels of minor league baseball. And I think I even took for granted how lucky I was to be in affiliated baseball, you know, a year ago in spring training. And that's kind of the perspective I had too. So it was mostly, you know, I just want back in the game and then work my way up however I have to do it.
Dude, I can honestly say, man, being a guy that's not playing baseball anymore, I got my list of guys that I played with, guys that I pulled for, and you're right at the top of that, buddy. So
Thanks, my man.